Testing.
Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, with us most Tuesdays. If not, maybe another day during the week if we can. And he's always incredibly accessible. We appreciate his time. It's game one, Mack, Texas State coming up on Saturday. A formidable team because of what they run offensively with G.J. Kinney, whose dad played at Baylor. Your thoughts about just what's it like around the athletic department during the opening week with so many, T's to cross and I's to dot?
Yeah, I think despite the additional, as you put it, T's to cross, I's to dot, I think there's just an additional pep in everybody's step. Everybody is excited. Certainly looking forward to the home opener. We also have soccer playing its first home opener when we think about La Tech, and then volleyball versus Rice. And so it's just an exciting week to be around. And, this is, maybe the fun part of the job is looking forward to watching our teams, our student athletes compete. So I'm fired up. Can't wait to be out there for the game against Texas State. And you mentioned, Coach Kinney, and not only did his father play here, but he has a brother that's a walk-on on our team, and so there's some connection there. And you're right, he certainly has a history of a prolific offense, and we need to be ready to play.
Mack, after how much did you get to watch new rules games last week, and what do you take away from what you've seen, if anything?
Yeah, great question. I don't know that I noticed much of a difference. Now, maybe you guys can educate me and inform me, but I haven't heard, in the aftermath of those games, how many less plays were run, and or were there, less plays run. It'll be interesting to see, kind of what that will look like at the end of the year. But yeah, for me, I'm just thinking, Saturday, had some events, had Meet the Bears. By the way, shout out to all of our fans. I drove up to McLean, and I think I looked at the temperature in the car, and it was 106 outside. And I'm like, man, who's coming to this? And it was the concourses were packed, and our student athletes were there, our coaches were there. So just grateful to the Baylor family for coming on out. But anyway, so I did watch a little bit. I watched the Notre Dame Navy game, and it. Again, just recollecting, I don't know that there was a huge difference for me. So, didn't get to watch USC and San Jose because that's on the Pac-12 network, and I'm not even sure, how to watch that, where to watch that.
You and many others, Mack. You and many others. But in terms of that fan experience and, being out at McLean, just in general, I mean, I know once the season's over, you review and you look at things that you can improve or change or whatever. And just what was kind of the thought process of heading into another football season? Was there, a to-do list in terms of McLean Stadium or things that you would like to see? Or when people show up on Saturdays, it's going to be about what they've come to expect, just the game day experience? How have you guys tweaked or I guess remained the same in that regard?
Yeah, Craig, I appreciate the question. I'm going to be really, really honest with you. I'm probably not in the weeds as much as I used to be in it, just given everything else I've got going on. But,
sure.
We got great staff, and, really appreciate all the work that Aaron Bean does in the space. And, there were, intentional conversations following the season, and certainly leading up to this season. What can we do to make, certainly the pregame when we think about music and activation of video board, and then, some of the in-game stuff, again, thinking about band, music, how do we get in and out of in-game promotion, sponsorship items, recognition items, maybe at a quicker pace with more energy. And so, those are the things that, certainly come to mind for me. We need our fans. Obviously, the main reason is we're coming to watch our football team, compete on the field, but then, in between plays, timeouts, making sure that we have things that are capturing their attention and that they're high energy. And so that's really what we talked about, primarily is this idea of high energy and again, not a lot of lull. That is something that I really struggle. Like if there's lull, man, that's not good. And we'll probably have a conversation that next day with staff. So, but Erin and her team have done a great job.
Game this Saturday night, Texas State. It's on ESPN Plus. Then you have the national game with Utah and the 11 o'clock kick. And I've had a few people ask me this. I really don't sometimes pay attention to the time until it's the week of, because of just trying to get through the first week and things we have to do as well. But the Long Island game is an 11 o'clock game. Chris Pesman at Houston had made a comment about he was adamant about trying to avoid as many of those as possible, especially right now with the temperatures. But there's no good time, I guess, with the temperatures. What was the thought process when you saw that was an 11 o'clock kick? And did you kind of try to maybe argue that it should be later in the day?
Yeah, so it's I appreciate the question because it's we are thoughtful. Now, as you know, it's rare when you get to control the game time. And so when you think about our 12-game schedule this year, we control the game time on two of them, right? The opener versus Texas State. And, we were intentional about the 6 p.m. I think primarily, some of it weather, making sure that, it was the best opportunity, to get as many Baylor fans in. Now, with that said, quite frankly, when we've looked at attendance numbers, 11 a.m. versus 6 p.m. kickoffs for similar opponents, the difference in terms of attendance is almost it's almost nil. I mean, there are almost the exact same results. And so when we thought about Long Beach State, I'll just be honest, it was really more probably that game time with recovery and getting the game done with in an early fashion, getting our student athletes to rest and to recover at least for half the day Saturday, knowing that we have UT coming to town that following week. So that was probably the primary driver for that, was just thinking about, hey, how do we best put ourselves in a position to play our very best, that following week, our conference home opener, and obviously certainly a rival. So hope that makes sense. And what's interesting, you didn't ask me about it, but if the Florida Utah game, right? If we were, for instance, our home opener was a road game, we would have probably really pushed, for that to be a different day, and look to it to be early. The fact that Utah has to travel here. If they didn't have to travel here, we'd also look to move that game up because they play, as on a Thursday. And so they're going to have a little bit more prep time than we will going into the matchup that second Saturday at 11 a.m. And so, we talked about that. We talked about, hey, do we move up? Do we move up the Texas State game? And if we had to travel to Utah, we probably would have tried to pull that off. So there's all of those conversations are going on behind the scenes.
Mac, now that you mentioned the Utah game. I mean, it is one of the hardest things that you have to do is schedule non-conference football games. It is maybe the hardest thing outside of hiring and firing coaches that you have to do, because there is so much involved in getting it done. Now, of course, it's going to be a conference game next year, but to see one finally, like when you got BYU in here, when you get Utah and see that game finally come to fruition, like what is that feeling like as an athletic director?
Yeah, I wish they weren't as good as they were. No, it's, I mean, look, it's, you balance, right? You balance, again, just, really candid, you balance, competitive matchups, matchups that your fans are going to be really, really interested in and excited about. And then, where your program's at, the whole idea of, the competitiveness standpoint, the ability to win games, right? And how that impacts you, particularly in the beginning of the year. I think our program's at a place where, we can compete against, somebody like, a Utah national brand. And so, I'm excited about it. I certainly can't wait for that game. And yet, we better be ready to play this Saturday against Texas State and make sure that we have great respect for them as an opponent.
This is a little random, and I think I meant to ask you this last week, and Gene Taylor's since commented on it, and Brett Yormark had commented on it before, but with all of the changes in the Big 12, I know the commissioner, has talked about rebranding. That's not talking about a name change, right? Like I said, Gene Taylor commented and seemed to shoot that down. I think Yormark might have commented about that as well, but just wanted to get clarity and obviously your thoughts on that as well when it comes to the Big 12 rebranding, given all the new institutions.
Yeah, I mean, we have spent, as you can imagine, a lot of time in this space as a conference, having all kinds of different conversations. And at one point in time, we talked about a complete rebrand, a new name. How do we do that? It was interesting, when we had that conversation, the four incoming, the Houstons, the Cincinnatis, the UCS, and BYU. They were like, wow, no, like, I don't want you to change the name, Big 12, because that has such great equity. And our fans are so excited about going into the Big 12. And certainly, not the primary reason why we didn't, but it made us stop and think about that. So we've had a variety of conversations. And I think, right now, pretty safe to say, moving forward, it'll be more of what we call a refresh, that the name will remain the same, but maybe the look of the logo, maybe the way we treat the logo, all of those things will be different when we think about, July 1, 2024 and the other four schools coming in. So, right now, I think we stay with the name Big 12, but it probably, looks maybe a little bit different. You've heard, the phrase maybe a little bit hipper, a little bit cooler.
All right. So I know that it just happened. It's fresh with Utah and the other schools coming to the Big 12, but you do have Utah scheduled also next year for a game there. Is that something where you've already had discussions on whether they'll be a part of your Big 12 schedule, or is that an algorithm? And then have you already had discussions on how you replace that game?
Yeah, so we've had conversations, as a conference and internally, and we've got a subgroup. I can't remember how many of us there are. If there's 4 or 5 of us, but this subgroup of athletic directors that are really taking a look at football schedule moving forward. And you've got some uniqueness, especially when you think about, the first 2 years that the four Pac-12 join us, right? You've got us playing at Utah in 2024, and then you've got Kansas State, Arizona playing in a home and home, so 24 and 25. And so how do we treat that? And I think the things that have obviously been discussed is, right, can you even get another opponent? And for us, that opponent would need to be Power 5, just to make sure that we adhere to the Big 12 scheduling policies. I think for Utah, they're going to have to, the way their schedule is, they would have to look to try to replace 2 games. And so, that's an option. What do we do? Do we have an opportunity to replace the game, or, do we play the game and that's just a game that's not counted as a conference game? And so those are all of the things that are on the table that we've talked about. We haven't landed in any one direction, and probably won't for at least the next couple months.
Yeah, North Carolina and Wake Forest did that a couple of years ago, where the ACC schedule spun out that two of these big rivals weren't going to play, and they said, well, can we play and just be a non-conference game? And that's what they did.
Yeah, Paul, and I appreciate you saying that. There's certainly precedence for it. I think I told you that the only email that I received that maybe wasn't extremely supportive of the Big 12 expansion, the addition of the 4 new members, is I got an email that somebody said that it now ruined their trip to Salt Lake City in 2024. So we'll see if we can find a way for that game still to happen.
If you don't mind, on a non-conference game, you also have Auburn. They have a massive stadium, 87,000. Obviously, Oregon's down the road. How often, if you do a home-and-home MAC, does the size of McLean Stadium come into play, or size of stadiums come into play when it comes to a home-and-home? Do some schools just want to make sure they're playing in front of the huge 75,000 or more? Because Auburn obviously accepted the opportunity.
Yeah, it's at least, since I've been here, and then, even my past experiences at other schools, it's never really been a topic of discussion. I think, for places like in Auburn and even, in Oregon, I think, they certainly want to play in the state of Texas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that, Oregon, Texas Tech begin their home and home this year, and so it's never been a topic. I do think that people know and understand that when McLean Stadium is packed and completely sold out, it's a pretty tough environment to play in, and I do think people think about that, but no, it's never been a hurdle for us.
As we enter this football season, Mac, there's obviously a lot of changes. Dave Aranda, whether it be staff or the roster, et cetera. And last year was tough by the end of it, especially. Just kind of what are your not necessarily your expectations, but I guess kind of that, just your feeling surrounding the football program as they get ready to embark on this new campaign on Saturday?
Yeah, I think, personally, and I'm not sure it really matters, where Mack Rhoades is, but I think personally, I'm in a really good place. I feel really, really excited, for the season. Really, really optimistic. I think you all know, I've said it several times, have great faith in Coach Aranda. I think he's a heck of a football coach. I think he's a heck of a leader. Certainly love the staff that he's assembled and has put together. I think some of the key areas where maybe we had some holes. I think he did a great job. The staff did a great job in terms of the transfer portal, and you've heard him say it before. The young men that transferred in, like all of them, high character, instant leaders. I can see a change in Blake. I can just see it and hear it, and feel it. Just somebody that's more confident, more vocal as a leader. There seems to be more internal accountability. So maybe better leadership. Within the team. Coming from our student athletes rather than in having to come from our coaching staff. I think it was a great summer. Really starting back in January of just, working hard in the weight room and really, really good preparation there. So, I'm optimistic as this is going to be since I've been here, I think this is going to be, the most balanced, the most competitive the Big 12's been. And so I think the margin of error, as usual, but maybe more so than ever, is extremely, extremely thin. Back in 2021, we won a lot of close games. The close games last year seemed to fall, a different way, and so we're gonna have to be able to find a way to win close games. And is that leadership? Is that maturity? I think it's all of those things. So, I don't mind putting this out there because it's real. I mean, obviously we expect to go to postseason, and we believe that we have a program. We're building a program that should compete for conference championships on a regular basis, and so that's the goal. That's always going to be the goal, and that's the goal this year as well.
Mack, if you don't mind, I know you'll hang up when I bring up realignment, but or expansion. But are you monitoring, at least as a conference, what's happening with the ACC? Can that affect the Big 12 and the way you think about expansion? And Stanford and Cal, there was no way the word I could use, I'm not going to, that Stanford and Cal ever wanted to be a part of the Big 12, was there?
Yeah. So I think, absolutely. I'd be disingenuous if I said we're not monitoring it and not, interested bystanders. Now, I'm not sure that impacts us in any positive or any negative way. Quite frankly, obviously SMU a part of that mix in Dallas, and I certainly I hope for SMU that's a real opportunity, because I've got great respect for Rick Hart and the SMU program, and just wasn't going to happen in the Big 12. Just probably didn't need an additional Texas team. So and when you think about Stanford, Cal, Big 12, I just at some point in time the numbers didn't work when you thought about our TV partners, the pro rata clause was up to 16 teams, and so I think it would have been really, really difficult to add any additional without really some significant delusion to the rest of the membership. So those are all things that were obviously talked about, considered, thought through, and so again, where we're at the 16, I think we've landed in a great spot. And, that's where we are for at least now.
Thank you, Mac. Appreciate your time. See you Saturday. Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us on most Tuesdays on 365 Sports. I mentioned the comment about Auburn